Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you new here, my name is Donna, and for those of you not new, thank you so much for continuing to come back and support me and love on me. I appreciate all of you so very much. I am humbled by the fact that I have you guys here watching me. Today I am doing my next installment in my Palette Roulette series. I believe this is episode 33 or 34, something like that, in which I let an app choose a palette that I will use all week long, and then I come back to you and I describe what happened to me over the week that I used the palette. Last week, the app that I used chose the It's My Raye Raye palette by P.A.W. for me to use this week. So that is the palette that we will be going over today. For those of you unfamiliar, this is a P.A.W. palette. As I said, it is the It's My Raye Raye palette, the very first one that they did together. There is a new one that just came out, and it has a whole huge colorful palette. It is beautiful. This is a 21 color palette, and it has 3 highlight shades, 3 contour shades, and 15 eyeshadows in it. With that being said, it does open up quite wonkily. You open up this section first, and you have your 3 highlight shades and your 3 like contour / bronzer shades. This one was quite dark on my skin tone, so I didn't really use it. I did use these 2 in combination with each other quite often over the last week as a bronzer on my face. The highlights were kind of wonky as well. This one was way too dark for my skin tone, of course, and this one was to be a highlight anyways, and this one didn't appear like this on the skin. It was more of a blush topper, if I'm being honest, and this one was just yellow. Even though it's in the pan as a white, it did appear yellow on the skin, so I didn't use it very much. Then you open up this section and you are given a nice mirror which folds back a good portion of ways, and then there are 15 shadows in here. Of these shadows, there are 5 of them that are shimmers. They could have saved themselves some trouble by pulling the shimmer out, because we do have a giant highlighter pan here that is the same shade as this one. This is the color that is on my eyes today as the shimmer across my lid, and as you can see, it is very golden. Because it is golden, it mimics this one very much so, but this one is a little bit more pink toned. And then these 2 shadows here also mimic this highlight right here, with this one being a little more pale and this one being a little more gold, as opposed to this one being a little more pink, but they all resemble each other so much so on the eye that it's really hard to tell the difference between the 2 of them. This one was my favorite shimmer, if I'm being honest. I used it a lot next to this one, which was also a good decent shimmer for me. The rest of the colors up here are mattes. They work very well with each other. They blend very well with each other, and they're super creamy and buttery to the touch. There isn't a whole lot of stickiness or texture or roughness to any of the shadows in here, and I didn't find a whole lot of fallout with them either. I remember purchasing this It's My Raye Raye palette because a friend of mine, her name is her channel name is Alize's Beauty. She raved about this palette way back when, and so I had to purchase it because I am a huge supporter of hers, but also because she does makeup really, really fantastically, and she raved about this palette, and I thought that it was great. What I will say about it is it's not a bad palette. P.A.W. is not a bad brand in and of itself, but this palette isn't a bad palette. It's just a very neutral palette, and if you're looking for a variety of eye looks that you can pull out of this palette, you aren't going to get it. While I do believe that this palette has a purpose, it is for the person who wants an all-in-one palette, who can deal with the highlighters as they are in the palette, and is maybe a beginner at this. This is the palette for you. That is the purpose of this palette. But for somebody like me who has, 100 other palettes, this is maybe not a palette that I will ever find myself pulling. The thing about this palette is the first time I received it from Ulta, it came to me shattered. And the customer service people at Ulta are amazing, and they replaced the eyeshadow palette, no questions asked, and I did get to keep the other one. So the 2 pans of contour that were shadowed in that palette, I just cleaned out and I gave the rest of the palette to my daughter. So my daughter is not an option on this one. I will keep this palette because it is a decent palette and because it is an all-in-one palette, but again, those highlights are just crazy and I probably won't use them on my face. I can see that with an eye primer or without an eye primer, this palette pretty much functions exactly the same. The shadows don't last very long on your eyes with an eye primer or without an eye primer. There is not a whole lot of longevity to them. So that was another thing that I encountered with this palette that makes me not want to use it very often, is that I need eyeshadows that last, or highlights or contours or bronzers that last on my skin more than a few hours. I typically do my makeup at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and it has to last me through the end of the day, which for me is typically 6, 7, maybe even 8 o'clock at night. Some nights I don't even take my makeup off until 10 o'clock or later. So the palette that I'm using has to last at least that long, and eye primers typically will do that for me for my eyeshadows, but with this palette, there wasn't that piece. I do have the entirety of the palette on my face today, except for the highlight. Like I said, I'm not using those highlight shades on my face because they just don't work well for my face. I have used them, all 3 of them, as eyeshadows, however. The website that I'm looking at for information on the palette says that it is vegan, gluten-free, cruelty-free, and allergy tested. I didn't find that there was a whole lot of issue using it on my face. And then it has 15 eyeshadows, 3 contours, and 3 highlights, which is accurate. It does also say that it has powerful pigmentation. While I don't think that it's lacking in pigmentation, my eye look today, I love the eye look I did yesterday. I love several of the eye looks that I had with this palette. I will tell you that I got rather bored with it rather quickly, so there isn't, as I said, a whole lot of variation to it. I am not going to swatch this palette because it is really, realistically, 50 Shades of Brown. I will go ahead and swatch the highlights for you. And this is what we're looking at. That is the white one. This is the pink one. And this is the brown one. It performs more like a shimmery bronzer, but you guys can see that the pink one is very pink and the white one is very yellow toned. These bronzers are very beautiful on the skin. I especially love these 2. Like I said, I didn't use this one much. I do have some favorites that I'll call out to you as far as shadows go. These 2 shimmers I used the most on in my week, and they were this one being my favorite, and they are these 2 here, which are called Allison and Tiffany. These 3 browns almost look the exact same shade on your eye once you get them on, but this one is a little more orangey toned, red toned. It is on top of the orange and red in my eye look today, up near that brow bone color. I will say that I wasn't able to pull a brow bone color from this palette because while this one looks like it would work, it is very, very yellow toned, as I said, and I didn't really want my brow bone looking yellow. I will go ahead and swatch that for you as well so that you can see that next to the highlight, it is the same. This purple was a really nice purple. These 3 colors I loved those 3 colors, and I use them quite often. The black isn't a bad black. This brown I used a lot to deepen up like the red and the orange here, just to give the eye look a little bit different contours. I know that today I used this this brown in my eye look. I also used this orange kind of in the deepening of the crease, and this red mixed with this brown on the outer V, as well as in towards the center of my eye, and then this is the shimmer that is all over my eye look today. I don't mind this palette, but it is not my favorite. It won't be my favorite, but it will remain in my collection because it's a good, decent palette. I don't really think that there's anything else that I can say about this palette except for that, as I said before, it serves a purpose. And I believe that purpose is for those people that need a good, inexpensive, because it is a relatively inexpensive palette, a good neutral colored palette that blends really well. Beginners would have a lot of fun with this palette, I think, but this is also a palette that's for somebody who is not looking for a whole lot of versatility in their looks. And if they are, know that you're going to have to bring in another palette to get that. This palette is 1.16 ounces or 33 grams, and that includes all of the pans in the palette. I will also tell you that these pans here are a good, decent sized pan. They remind me a little bit of like maybe an Over Blush single, that size. And these pans are relatively small, but also not small. So they're a little bit more the size of a nickel. Whereas like Makeup Revolution, I find that their round pans are about the size of a dime. These ones are about the size of a nickel. So they're not bad. They're not bad sized pans. And I think it's worth noting that this palette's shelf life reads at 24 months. So, well, I will say though that it still performs like the day I bought it. I've had it for probably about a year now. I will also say that this was my experience with my first experience with BH Cosmetics, and because of the consistency of the shadows and the butteriness of them, the sheer capability of being able to blend them, I was on a mission to purchase more BH cosmetic palettes after trying this one. And this one was my first experience with BH, and I didn't mind it. I kind of actually loved it. So now that that's done, we're going to go ahead and jump into my app and choose the next palette, the palette for next week. And for those of you who don't know, I have a Samsung Note 9, and I use the Decide Now app that is on our Play Store. And with this app, it is a Wheel of Fortune type wheel. You put everything that you want the app to choose for you into said wheel, and then you name the wheel and spin the wheel. To spin the wheel, you just press on that middle blue like button right there. My phone doesn't like to show you very well what I am looking at. The one thing I don't like about this app is it's not very big, so like I really have to expand it to be able to see sometimes what the palette is. I have been doing this for, I think this was week 33, so I think we're going into week 34. So I have taken all the palettes that we have used out, and as I get palettes in, I am putting the palettes into the Decide Now app. I have not added all the palettes from my GMC haul just because I haven't decided what I'm doing with that palette, with those palettes yet. But I have added all the palettes that I have hauled in via Sephora or whatnot, the palettes I've chose to haul in. So as I am getting palettes, I'm putting them in. As we are using palettes, I am taking them out. The inspiration for this video was a girl named Danny. Her channel name is Danny Bow, and she does a palette a week series in which she also uses one of these kind of apps to help choose a palette for her. Hers is used as a declutter series. Mine really wasn't built with that structure, but I have decluttered a few palettes since starting this. Mine was just more built so that I could get some use out of the palettes that I continue to forget about as I'm bringing new palettes in. So this is the app, and we are going to go ahead and spin the wheel. And it looks like we have the Urban Decay Full Spectrum palette, which is kind of crazy and great. Alright guys, so this is the Urban Decay Full Spectrum palette. I loved this palette from the minute I saw it. I purchased it at the same time as I purchased my Urban Decay Electric palette, and I have used it I think twice. I love this palette for its giant mirror and its rainbow shades, and this actually works really well for me this week because on Friday we have a grand opening at one of my stores and the theme for the day is rainbow. So I'm so excited to have this as a palette to be used this week. It's funny because we go from completely neutral to completely colorful and back and forth like that, and I will probably end up also taking a neutral palette with me just so that I have something to use these colors on top of. But hopefully it'll all work out wonderfully. I know that the couple times that I have used this palette already, I wasn't super impressed with the payoff, so we'll see how that goes. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed yourself, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you enjoyed this video enough that you're considering giving it a big thumbs up. It really does help our channels out there in the YouTubes. And I also hope that you liked this video or me enough that you're considering subscribing to this channel. I do upload content typically every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or Sunday, depending on my work week, and I typically upload at 9 a.m. on those days. Sometimes it's a little sporadic lately. I've had computer problems and camera problems and working too much problems. Not working too much. I really enjoy what I do, but you know, working a lot more and not getting my life in order, the personal part of my life in order enough that I have been kind of a hot mess. I've been struggle bussing this YouTube / personal life / work life of mine. I promise you one day I will get it under control. Hopefully it will be soon, but I hope, that being said, that if you choose to subscribe to my channel, that you also click that notification bell so that you're notified every single time I upload. I do upload at least 3 times a week. I do have stereotypical days and time frames, but sometimes that just doesn't work out. So please go ahead and hit that notification bell so that you are fully aware of when I do upload a video. Have you guys used this palette before? Have you used the BH My Raye Raye palette before? Have you used the Full Spectrum palette before? Please sound off down in the comment section. Let me know what you think of either or palette. And I hope that you'll join me next week when we'll go over the Full Spectrum palette in full force. Thank you so much again for joining me today. And until next time, guys, bye. Urban Decay, what is that palette? Oh my god, Urban Decay.